While writing for this video, I was under the impression that we didn't know when the Flex 5 was coming back. However, Lenovo recently updated the listing for the Flex 5 on Amazon, and it says it'll be back in stock on June 29th, with shipments going out in July. You can still order the Flex 5 for $600 through that link, so no worries about having to look for anything else, it'll just show up a little later. If you need something right now, let me know in the comments and I can make a video following up about some potential alternatives to the Flex 5, but for now, we'll just skip over that, and we'll come back to the topic in a future video. So besides Flex 5 stock concerns, we have some quality control concerns with the Flex 5 that I want to address in this video. I meant to address this before the Flex 5 went out of stock, just unfortunately it took this long for me to really get to it. But I've had, I think, 2 commenters say that the speakers on their Flex 5 when it arrived were actually defective. They were saying that I think the left speaker wasn't making any noise, and that one's the closest to the connector on the motherboard. And I think I can show that. I'll edit that in later. You can see that now. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that necessarily. If you're kind of crafty and you have a T5 bit, you can open up your laptop. One thing I'd recommend is if you're having issues like that, you can always just go in there and reseat the connectors and see if that helps, because, you know, warranties and returns just kind of suck. So you're not going to void your warranty by doing that. I didn't void my warranty by opening my Flex 5, so it's nothing to worry about. As long as you don't break anything, which you'd have to try pretty hard to break something, you can always go into the BIOS and disable the internal battery, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, like shorting anything or anything like that, unless it's like battery circuitry. But just unplug the battery first, you'll be fine. I also have seen a note on Amazon about the touchpad just being sunken in or sticky or not coming back up. One thing, if you do get something like that, it's often because the touchpad screws are not like very tight, and the touchpad's located under the battery. So again, if you're crafty, you can get your screwdrivers out, open the back up, and unscrew the battery, just lift it up and like release the screws on the touchpad and just kind of try to reseat it in place further towards the keyboard, because you can see like below here, this is at the bottom, this is like it sinks in here, but at the top it's pretty like solid. It just kind of flexes the deck when I push on it there. So if you want to mess with the touchpad, you have to remove the battery, and you can mess with the screws down there. Yeah, so I mean, this might be a complicated thing to fix yourself. You can always just try, like when you have the battery out, you can just loosen these screws up here and just push on it to see if it'll reseat, and then tighten the screws down. I mean, ultimately I'd recommend just getting the thing serviced if you're having issues with it, but regardless, I haven't seen anyone in my comments section talking about touchpad issues, so I don't think it's too big of a problem. But the speaker thing does seem to be a little bit of an issue. Some people were saying it was distorting, which might just be like partially Dolby audio, and if you just turn that off, it might stop. I can show you how to do that. I have it off. Yep, so just go to the start menu and type Dolby, then open Dolby audio, and then just it'll look like it'll look like this for you. Just turn it off, and once it's off, your speakers shouldn't be distorting anymore at high volumes. Yep, like mine aren't. If you turn on Dolby audio, sometimes you can get it to distort like that. My speakers are pretty much pristine and perfect, so I don't really have any issues with that, but some people might. So yeah, that's all you have to do. Just turn it off, and you should have a much better speaker experience. One other thing I got a comment about was someone saw a review on Amazon that was talking about a powered USB hub being plugged in and then the system automatically turning off when the laptop went to sleep. I feel like that might have something to do with the USB hub that was being used, because maybe it's like feeding voltage back into the system and causing it to like short and power down. I haven't been able to reproduce it myself on my Flex 5, and it might be software related, so if you're having an issue like that, I'd recommend just getting your unit exchanged and see if it helps, because I haven't really run into anything like that myself. So some folks are looking for a docking station or something that'll work with the USB-C port on the Flex 5 to do video out, and a lot of folks have been asking me about this. I've been trying to find something myself, and this apparently works according to an Amazon reviewer on the Flex 5 listing. Of course, take that with a grain of salt, because I don't know for sure if it does. I don't know if that was like a paid review or anything like that, because that does happen on Amazon, but this apparently does do video out and like Ethernet and everything. You just power it externally. Looks like you can do it's over USB-C. It's a USB 3.0. It's not like Thunderbolt or anything. And supposedly this works with the Flex 5. I mean, you can look at the rating. Yep, so here's the review that's talking about this dock. They're saying I was able to output display using DisplayLink driver from both the USB-C port as well as the USB-A port using this dock. I also connected Ethernet to the dock and turned off Wi-Fi and still had internet. So yeah, they're saying the specs are misleading. That's not true. They're just kind of confused on how the dock works because, as I said, the dock works over USB. It doesn't work over Thunderbolt or DisplayPort alt mode. So yeah, that's how that works. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the docks. And now let's cover the issues I found after making my review and early findings videos. These are two new problems I've ran into that you might run into, and here's really how you solve them. I know a lot of people have been complaining about audio popping or stuttering or whatever during video playback, specifically like high-res 60 FPS video playback, and I'll demonstrate that issue and I'll show you how to fix it. Okay, we got direct video out from the computer. You can see we're here. We'll just double check. Actually, no, we know for sure that we're using. So yeah, as you can see, if we go to open up a Radeon software, it just says they do not match. Please try again after updating. So that means we're on the Lenovo drivers now. You won't see that because you have the Lenovo drivers. I just have that because I have both installed right now, which they won't conflict. It's just how I have it set up. And let's try something simple. Here you can see this is the Discord, and I have these notes here. This is a 4K 60 video of basically Costa Rica, and I'll show the stats. And you can see basically dropped frames are when frames don't render during video playback, and dropped frames are not good. You don't want to have dropped frames because that's content you're not seeing, and the lag you're seeing is not your device, unless your device has really laggy video playback. The lag is the Flex 5 actually stuttering during decoding of the video. You can see that's dropped over 100 frames now, which is, 120 frames now, which is 2 seconds of video that's been dropped. And it'll just continue like this. You can see that, pause and play, you can see that it's just really buggy. Any 60 FPS video playback does this, unfortunately. You can see it's stuttering. Let's load up the 8K content. Some folks are saying that trying to play 8K would just crash Chrome. And yeah, it doesn't seem to be playing. Let's take a look at our system usage here. Yep, and Chrome is actually using 100% of CPU trying to play 8K content right now. You can see the frames dropping are just constant. The video is just not playing. Clearly not at 60. It's buffering, and it doesn't have anything to do with my connection at all. Because if it was my connection, we'd be seeing network activity, but it's just freezing and then downloading and then freezing. So yep, we've got a problem here, and our problem is drivers. So the solution to any driver problem is new drivers, and we're going to be loading up some new drivers now. I'll show you how to do that on the camera. Now we're back on the camera, so let's take a look at getting those drivers installed. So the way you get Adrenalin 2020 drivers is you go to Google here, and we'll just type in AMD 4500U drivers. Go to the AMD product page for it. Should look like this. Then click on drivers and support at the top. Click on the plus next to Windows 10 or just Windows 10 in general. And click download next to Radeon software. You'll download the Radeon software. I already have it downloaded, so I'll just pull that up from my downloads. Click yes, and then click install. Now it'll start going through the install process, and that install process involves basically turning off the Lenovo driver and turning on the AMD Adrenalin 2020 driver. Okay, now it looks like we're on the actual installer now. You'll see it says detecting for driver and software compatibility, which should just take, yep, there we go. Now go to additional options and make sure to check factory reset, and then install. Factory reset won't delete any of your data, it just resets your graphics settings for the driver itself, not any of your games, just to make sure that any weird configuration that Lenovo had set on the drivers that's causing issues is now being purged from the system. So since the installer has to remove the original driver, it asks you to restart so that it can install itself on top of the old driver, so just click restart, let the system restart normally. And we're back at the desktop, and the installer starts back up and continues with the install. Okay, and we're gonna have to restart one more time. Just let it restart normally. Okay, now that the system's back, just sign back in. And now we'll take another look at video playback with this new driver. Alright, so here we go. 8K content. We'll even load up Task Manager. And now the GPU is maxed out, actually, which is good. That's what you want to see. And now we can actually watch the video, surprisingly. Yeah, so we are still dropping a lot of frames. You can see that when the video actually clears up. I'll skip back here. You can see that it's actually only working with 1080p video. It's just that it's taken the 8K content and downscaled it to 1080p so that it allows us to pretty much play it back like this, which is interesting. But yeah, unfortunately this is not going to work super well for playing back 8K content. But what about 4K content? Let's take a look at that 4K video. As a reminder, we got about 120 dropped frames pretty much immediately during this. And it does look like we're getting, you know, still some dropped frames. Not nearly as much though. While using Chrome, you can expect some dropped frames on YouTube. I mean, for instance, if you right-click this video right now, just right-click and click Stats for Nerds, you'll see probably some dropped frames just because I'll be exporting this in 60 FPS. And that's just the nature of how Chrome works. It has some bugs that just kind of result in really poor video decoding performance through the browser. So we'll also be taking a look at Edge and seeing how that performs compared to Chrome. Yep, we're using the GPU now instead of the CPU, which is, you know, how it should have been. And it is indeed using video encode to display it, so that's good. So yeah, as we can see, we have the 60 frames per second 8K content now playing. This is through the Edge browser. You can see it's still native 8K up top because it says 7680 by 4320 under current. We've only dropped 2 frames, but it only seems to think there's 21 frames, so there seems to be something wrong with the stats. Yeah, so this definitely isn't playing at 60 FPS, but it is playable. For instance, we're able to just watch the content on Edge where we really couldn't on Chrome. And this is no fault of the hardware here, really. It just has to do mostly with drivers and encoding and just so many different things. Being able to play 8K content really isn't super relevant to a laptop of this caliber anyway, because, you know, 4K content I can see, and, you know, we can see the 4K content is clearly playing at least better than 30 FPS, no problem. So it shouldn't have any issues doing 4K. 8K though? No, unfortunately not. But yeah, that's how you update the Adrenaline drivers. All you do is you just Google your processor name, go to AMD's product page, downloads, and then just download the Radeon software, and you're pretty much good to go once you install it. Outside of that, I did run into one weird problem with my Flex 5 where I had the charger plugged in and it just wasn't doing anything. So normally when you plug in the charger to the Flex 5, you can see that an orange light comes on there. Sometimes it'll be white, just basically an LED turns on. What ended up happening to me was that after leaving the laptop asleep for about 12 hours on my desk, I ran into an instance where just basically plugging in the charger wasn't doing anything. The light wouldn't come on and Windows wouldn't register that the laptop was charging. So for some reason then the USB PD negotiation was failing. If this happens to you, don't panic. Your charger is not broken and your laptop's not broken. The way you need to fix this, first just go into the computer and shut it down and let it turn off. Now that the computer's turned off, all you need to do is press the power button and start hitting F2. Now that you're here, go over to configuration. Make sure that your charger is unplugged at the time. This is my charger again. Now it's unplugged. Go down and hit enter on this value here that I mentioned. Press enter when you're hovered over this disable building in battery option. That'll disable the internal battery. You'll need to plug it in to re-enable the computer basically. So just hover over that, hit enter, and then hit enter. Now the computer's off, and you can see it's off. If I go and I try to press the power button, nothing will happen because this is basically maintenance mode for the computer. So to get this to turn back on, and this will show you that the charger is now working, you just basically take your cable here, plug it in, and the light should come on. And now you can just turn the computer towards you and power it on. And you should have life back in your system, and it should be charging now. And that's all you have to do to fix that problem. I ran into that just a day or two ago. I'm not sure if it was before or after my review. I just haven't mentioned it until now. But yeah, that's how you fix that. It's not like a fatal hardware issue. It's just a weird software glitch that needs to get addressed in the firmware. Other than that, I think that's it for today's video. Again, if you want to support the channel, you can use the affiliate links in the description. I also have a Patreon set up now, so if you want to support the channel other than buying laptop stuff or just whatever you want off Amazon, you can do that directly. The perks are pretty limited at the moment, but I'm open to suggestions. You can feel free to chat in the Discord about those. At the moment, it's mostly just Discord roles. But yeah, all the money that goes into the Patreon goes directly into buying more review units and just better filming equipment and such for the videos, just to improve the quality and make it easier for me to film videos in general. But yeah, that's all for today. Be sure to get subscribed and let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I hope this video was helpful.